Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back to the Heat Seekers live streaming podcast, and we've got a crew tonight. We've got Brad, Jason, Anthony. I gotta be careful. Brad's gonna really get offended here before long. Hopefully Paul's watching. Oh, I love all you guys.
That's your one per show, folks.
That's my one per show. Okay, we got it out of the way real quick. Today we've got a fun one for you guys. You know, we have a hard time every week, like figuring out what's the best thing in season to talk about Dynasty, right? Like our job is during the off season and telling you guys the best guys for the draft and to go out and buy when they, people move teams and shift and everything. And then when it gets in season, it's just basically redraft, right? And starts and sits and buys and sells. And they're obviously a little bit different in Dynasty than they are in redraft. But we wanted to do something that we haven't done on this show yet, and that is basically just have a Q&A where you guys ask us about players, and we'll all tell you whether we buy them, sell them, or hold them, and kind of answer some of your questions. There's a lot of players right now that are either playing way above expectation or playing well below expectation. And a lot of people don't know what to do with those guys. And I know there's one in specific that Anthony and I haven't necessarily debated, but there's been some talk about that I'm sure we'll get to at some point in this episode. But this one's about you guys. This is about all of the people that tune in every Tuesday and Wednesday and Sunday when we are live. And we appreciate you guys. So we wanted to give something back for you, this content. You're creating it. So if there's players you're wondering about, drop them in the chat and we will get to them. But first, we do have some news and notes that we're going to cover. So, Anthony, why don't you go ahead and bust out that first one, because I think it's probably a heartbreaker for a fella like you with the San Francisco 49ers shirt on.
Yeah, that's me. And, I can talk about the Niners first here. George Kittle, broken bone in his foot. He's out. It sounds like 8 weeks. I saw a funny quote from Shanahan today that said, well, George Kittle wants to come back in 2 weeks, but, he always says stuff like that. It's probably going to be 8 weeks. So, obviously Kittle wants to get back out there, but it's really going to be up to the medical staff. And it sounds like it's going to be several weeks. I guess probably 8 weeks, like it was first reported, broken bone. And they're, and assuming, they have a really rough schedule coming up, the Niners do, and especially now with Jimmy Garoppolo, who also got hurt his ankle. He's going to be out several weeks. I just don't see this team being competitive down the stretch. So why would they rush back Kittle? Why would they rush back Garoppolo? I think both Kittle and Garoppolo could be done for the regular season. And in Superflex, I think that brings Nick Mullins back into the conversation, and tight end premium leagues, maybe even in the standard league, Jordan Reed, as long as he's healthy, he'll produce. The problem with Jordan Reed, and I know Rick agrees here, you can never feel confident starting him because he could get hurt any game, literally any time. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add on the Niner notes. I guess we'll start with Jason.
Yeah, Jimmy G going down and then Kittle as well. I mean, that's really bad news for that team. I don't expect them to make the playoffs at all. So, the next guy's gonna have to step up. That's just how it goes in the league, And hopefully Jordan Reed could come in and do something and flash and help Nick Mullins out. I think they're really gonna need it. And then, they got Brandon Ayuk, who's been, performing really well. He's doing great, and I think that they're gonna keep going at Ayuk because they're gonna go with the hot hand, and that's kind of the way this team rolls. And I see that as well with their running back situation. So They'll probably go with Jermichael Hasty, and they'll just keep cycling guys in. And they got a great play caller, and Shanahan's gonna find ways to get these guys going. So what do you think there, Brad?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing for the Niners, much like some of our fantasy teams, is injuries have just destroyed fantasy seasons, just like injuries have destroyed these guys. And we got to add on here Tevin Coleman. He's out at least week 9, potentially back week 10. But in theory, I mean, they could be starting. I mean, you could see Ross Dwelly playing. I've been picking him up, the tight end, just because Jordan Reed was hurt even as of Sunday. He was out, expected back week 9. So you have to assume that he's going to be their top guy if he's there. But he's already, so we already know that he's hurt. Wilson and some of these other guys hurt. I mean, this is going to be a rough team. And I think they start with Green Bay this week. I think they're the first team they got this week. And, Green Bay is coming off of just kind of a rough week 8. I expect them to kind of be on a revenge game. And I think the 49ers are going to be kind of a whipping boy. It's not going to look the same as it did last season in the playoffs. So, I've gone out and tried to get Beathard and Dwelly, just kind of to stash them on my rosters, because I don't anticipate Mullins and Jordan Reed surviving very long. Just because Mullins has already been replaced by Beathard, I could see Beathard being a guy that maybe takes over as well there. So for anybody who's desperate, you got to start at the top with Mullins and Reed, but know that anything's possible with these guys, especially this year. I don't put it past anybody. I mean, Hasty wasn't a guy expected to be relevant this year, and he's getting plenty of playing time. So just be careful if you're throwing a bunch of money at any of these guys, because it could be vastly different even a week or two later. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, going back to Kittle, because this is obviously the big one, right? Kittle is the best player at his position in the NFL right now. And obviously you could argue Kelsey, but when we're talking Dynasty, Kelsey's a little bit older, so Kittle is, most people, probably the consensus number 1 tight end. When I first read it, it sounded a lot like Goddard's injury from earlier this year. The first note I seen was a slight fracture in the ankle. Hopefully, not that he's going to come back as fast as Goddard did, but hopefully it is something that does heal up quick, because Kittle is a difference maker, and somebody that you don't typically worry about putting in your lineup. It is kind of funny though, and we were talking about this on Sunday, for DFS purposes, but it seems like every time we think Kittle's in a smash spot, for some reason, it just doesn't work out that day. And then he gets in those matchups where you think it might be a little bit harder for him to pull through, and he just dominates. So it is kind of an odd little thing going on there, but obviously want to see him back healthy. Obviously without Jimmy G, it is kind of funny. I actually had somebody that messaged me in one of my leagues. I picked up Mullins and Beathard last week. And got them for like free, basically. And they messaged me like, dude, how did you know that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to go down? Because it's a super flex league. But I was just like, I was desperate for quarterback, so I just started picking up every backup I thought might have a shot to get in a game. And here we are. Now, luckily I'm protected. Whichever one starts, I'll be able to throw in there. But we don't know if either of those guys, when they start, are going to make it through an entire game either. So not comfortable putting them in there, but I'll gladly take them for, $1, I think, that I spent on them in fab money. So it does suck. 49ers were a team that was obviously in the Super Bowl last year, and we all expected to be one of the teams to compete to go back, and stuff just hasn't worked out for them in 2020. And most of their running backs we already knew going in were injury prone. Most of them have had some concerns in the past, but this is a bit extreme, being on like your number 5 running back, and McKinnon's the only one that stayed healthy all year, which is like we're in a parallel universe or something.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue with the running back discussion, since another team getting hit with running back concerns is the Packers. So we know Aaron Jones is out. He's missed the last couple games. Jamal Williams was tearing it up in his absence, but now Jamal Williams isn't going to play because he was a close contact to A.J. Dillon, who came down with COVID. So both A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams, and Aaron Jones might play. They play Thursday. I think most people think he's probably on the doubtful side of questionable. He could still play. If those top 3 running backs are out, Dexter Williams makes a return. That's a name I remember some of us were talking about last year. And then Tyler Ervin, I don't even know who that is. So maybe anyone can chime up.
You shouldn't have admitted that on stream, to be honest.
Well, I don't know who Tyler Ervin is, so please, and I'm sure a lot of people watching don't know either.
Tyler Ervin's been around for a while too. He's kind of like the Dexter Williams. He was in Houston for a long time. He got some run there with Lamar Miller a couple years, and at times performed pretty well. And then he's been a kick returner for a number of years too. But Tyler Ervin's been around for a while. He's not an exact nobody. He's not a James Robinson coming out of complete nowhere to take over. But he's also been a backup and a 4th stringer for a reason. He's not a great running back, but
well, I'll be sure to check that out after stream.
What, you don't think we're lying to you?
No, I believe you. I want to know more about him now. He might be the starting running back.
You had to check on the information. Like, I don't believe that he played in Houston.
No, I mean,
Back checked.
This is waiver night, buddy. You know, I want to make sure I'm out there getting the right people for waivers. You know.
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult one. I didn't know that they already ruled Jamal Williams out. I knew the last they were looking to see if he was going to be, which I figured probably since they played in the same backfield just 2 days ago. But hopefully Aaron Jones is back. I mean, he was a game time decision 2 games ago, so hopefully they just held him out this Sunday to get him ready for this one. Maybe they were overlooking the Vikings and thought we can get away without having him for this game, but they need him, and more than that, they needed somebody to stop the run. Because, man, did Dalvin Cook have a good week this week. I don't know.
Yeah, he looked really good.
Tyler Ervin has 68 career rushing yards. Career rushing yards. Come on.
Yeah, he's their satellite back. I think the guy I'm targeting is Dexter Williams. That's the guy I want. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on him.
And you're on a freaking football
I don't know who he is. I don't know. Tyler Ervin. No, I don't know who that is. He had 135 career reception yards. He's been on 3 teams since 2016. No,
he doesn't. You know what?
Nobody
Tyler
said he
doesn't
was
know
good.
who you are.
Good. I'm glad. And by week 11, no one's going to say his name again in the rest of our lives. You'll see.
I'm writing an article week 12 on him.
Tyler.
Yeah, no shit. I don't know why he's getting all worked up. Nobody said he was good. We just said that he's been in the league for 5 years and you don't know who he is.
Well, I've heard of the name, but I mean, come on.
Oh, now he says he heard of the name. Yeah, I don't
Look at him.
Jason, you were rudely interrupted by Anthony over there, so why don't you go ahead and tell us what you were thinking?
Yeah, I was saying my guy is the target is Dexter Williams. I mean, a lot of people are thinking that the next man up is Tyler Ervin, and I don't think he's the guy that the Packers are going to rely on to carry the load. So I think Dexter's going to step in and be there, 1 and 2 down back. I mean, he hasn't been used or utilized. He's been a healthy scratch a lot, and he's kind of been just waiting his turn. And he's very talented coming into the league. So. And he's got a really good profile, too. So, I mean, I see the Packers using Dexter Williams.
Yeah, Irvin's definitely going to be the pass catcher out of the two, right? He could get 8 to 10 targets if they're all out. It's not a longevity thing. It's not like we're saying he's great, but he is a playmaker. That's why he's a punt and kick returner. So he does have the big playability. He's just not going to be that every down back for them. Nobody was saying that. We just said that you should have heard of him because he's been in the league for 5 years.
You know why I heard of him? He went to my my college, San Jose State. I'm trying to
Don't
refresh my
backtrack
memory.
now. Don't
I am.
backtrack
I'm
now.
refreshing my memory here. San Jose State
Okay,
Spartans, baby.
we're spending too much time on news and notes. Brad, tell us what you think.
I do love that if you look at our lads, Tyler Irvin is the number 2 back behind Aaron Jones, and Dexter Williams is on the practice squad. So just putting that out there.
Fair enough.
That would be because he is either their kick returner or punt returner, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think he is one of he does one of the two at least. So that's why
Yeah,
he is on the roster instead of Dexter Williams. But he can't carry the load. We know that. But he could catch look how much their running backs are involved in the passing game. Whether it's Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams when they're both on the field, or when it was just Jamal Williams or just Aaron Jones, like Tyler Irvin's going to get a piece of that if everybody's out, and that adds some value for at least 1 week, right? It's probably not longer than that, but you don't have to rush and go get him unless you're putting him in your lineup or blocking your opponent from putting him in your lineup, because it could just be one of them one week things. We've seen it a million times. Volume equals fantasy points, and he could get it in the passing game. Plus, he could get 6 to 8 carries too. He's just not going to get the 18 to 20 that Jamal or Aaron get when they're the top back in that offense.
Yeah, Williams has a better boom potential, and then Irvin. I think people are just going to spend their fab on him, and the guy that you can get for free basically is Dexter. So that's the guy I'm targeting personally.
Anthony, what else we got in news and notes other than you looking angry?
Sorry, I'm still reading about this guy. All right, Isaiah Ford, formerly on the Miami Dolphins, traded to the Patriots today. I think it's an interesting move. I don't think it's going to make crazy waves. I fortunately have Isaiah Ford in our 96er, so I thought, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe something happens there. Maybe there's a little bit of buzz, but I don't know. Brad, do you have any thoughts on Isaiah Ford to the Pats?
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Ford's not coming in to play quarterback, so I don't know how fantasy relevant it's going to be. The issue they've got right now is, I mean, they just don't. That offense is very anemic. So Ford's going to come in, and there's definitely an opportunity for him to make a name for himself. I mean, you saw Demir Bird have a little bit of run here for a few weeks, and N'Keal Harry, everybody expects to kind of be the guy, and Edelman's been hurt, and there's just so many guys there that just it's not really been working very well. So he's got to come in and do something. I mean, they traded for him, so you have to anticipate that Belichick has a vision for what he wants to do with him. Maybe he's kind of the big body. So remember, Cam's been successful with kind of those big body pass catchers that have the big wingspan that can go get his errant throws that aren't really ever truly on target. So I think there's an opportunity for him to do something there. I was just never a big fan of Ford coming out of college, and so far he hasn't really wowed me at Miami. So, yeah, I mean, if you're in a pinch and you need some wide receiver help, I mean, you could stash him. I know I have him in a few spots just because he had a little bit of a pop with Miami, but nothing super exciting. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, Miami wasn't really utilizing Ford the best, in my opinion, and because they had Williams and they have Parker, so he was kind of the third guy in line, or maybe fourth or fifth, considering their tight end, and they got Gaskin in the backfield. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a sneaky move for Belichick. I think he knows what he's doing, of course, and why they're trading with the Patriots, I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, obviously Belichick has a vision for this kid, and I think they'll get him involved. But yeah, what worries me is the volume for sure. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, so he does have something that none of the other receivers for the Patriots have, and that is big playability, and he can run those short routes. He was, running out of the slot a lot more for the Dolphins than he was running outside. He is 6'2", but he is also a pretty skinny guy. He doesn't have that, like, Devontae Parker build, right, on the outside where he's tall and he's got some weight to him with the speed. So I think he could be kind of a playmaker for them, because Edelman at this point of his career isn't going to be, taking short passes to the house very often at all. I don't think Jacoby Myers is that guy either. I think Isaiah Ford is a little bit more athletic than the receivers they've got in there right now, the Demir Birds and all of them that we've mentioned. So I think there is a little bit of intrigue there with what Ford could do potentially, because they can't throw the ball deep anyway. They don't get very much protection for Cam, and even though I've never been the biggest Cam fan as a passer, if he doesn't get the time, then it's just not going to be accurate. So hopefully they can get the ball out quick to Ford. I do have a lot of shares of Ford, and they were all free, so I would love for it to pan out. Whether it will or not is up in the air for now. I'm not super excited about it, but it's better than being in Miami, I think.
Well, it's another good segue, Rick. Speaking of Miami, DeAndre Washington was traded to Miami earlier today, and it kind of made me like scratch my head a little bit, because they already have Gaskin, they already have Howard and Breida, but then about a couple hours later we find out Myles Gaskin has a MCL sprain. He's going to be on IR for 3 games at least. So kind of a bummer. Gaskin was one of the guys we were talking about, someone you could get at a pretty fair price. Now that's kind of turned a page, I guess is fair to say. I don't have much faith in DeAndre Washington, kind of more of a depth move. I think they're going to lean on Howard and especially Breida as long as he can stay healthy. Jason, thoughts on Miami?
Yeah, it's a bummer Gaskin went down, and then they had to make a trade to get some more depth in the backfield, because they've tried Howard and Breida, and it just didn't work out for those guys, and Gaskin ended up beating them out. No one expected that. No one even saw that coming. So I mean, to bring in DeAndre Washington, who's another just another guy, but he's talented too, and he can make some plays. So I think that they're just bringing another guy, and they want to see some playmakers, and I think they'll just cycle through their guys. And I'm not expecting very much out of that backfield with Gaskin out. What do you think there, Brad?
I mean, something's better than what they've got behind Gaskin. The 3.5 yards per carry that Breida's averaging doesn't really excite anybody, and we know Jordan Howard's 1 yard per carry is super enticing as well. So, they had to go do something, and I don't know that this guy's really the answer. He was obviously drafted by Oakland when they were still Oakland, and now he went to KC and really wasn't relevant, obviously, because there's so many backs there. But first career he's averaged 4 yards per carry. I think he gives them a little bit of a pop just because he has. I think he's got better big play ability from the running back position than Jordan Howard, and I think that allows them to use him as kind of the between the tackles type runner, because Breida, we all know, is better in the pass catcher role. But I mean, we'll see. He's healthy, which is more than we could say about Howard, who's been hurt and banged up, and Breida, who's obviously we know his history. He's been okay so far this year, but for 3 weeks, I put my money on Washington just because they traded for him. You got to think they're going to do something with him. What do you guys think, Rick?
I see this. Okay, so first off, there was one thing you said, and I think it's misconstrued a lot with Breida. Like, he has not caught very many passes in his career, but he's had that big playability. The 80-yard run last year that he had masked how inefficient he was the entire year, and that's basically been what he's been in Miami this year. And apparently none of us know how to turn off our notifications on our phone or our noises, so our phones keep going off. I think there's a very good chance he comes in and leads his backfield for the next 3 weeks, and because Howard has been terrible. Outside of a couple big runs, Breida has been terrible over the last couple years, and there's nothing there that excites me. You can shake your head. I've got all the numbers that show.
No.
He gets stuffed. the dude gets stuffed.
That's not true.
The dude got stuffed in San Francisco with a good offensive line last year, 26% of his runs. And he was not good. The 80-yard run masked his inefficiency last year. You can look at the end of season numbers and the box score numbers, and they might show a decent, carries, yards per carry, but he was a very inefficient running back last year for San Francisco, and the same is carried over in Miami this year. Without the big plays, his numbers do not do good for an actual football team. That can't be argued.
I mean, I don't think you're giving him a fair shake. His main problem is injuries. Always has been injuries. So last year he was battling injuries all year. So it's not fair to say, well, look how bad, look at it, look how inefficient he was. Well, he was hurt he was hurt even when he was playing. He was hurt. So I just don't think it's a fair thing to say about him. As long as he's healthy, I expect him to do well. And in this opportunity, if Tua can put it together, and I believe Breida of these three backs has the best chance to do well over these next few games. Breida would be my pick for who would be in the best position.
He's been healthy this year, right?
Yeah, but Dolphins are a dumpster fire.
Okay,
so
but Myles Gaskins has been efficient. So this is the argument that everybody had last year, was with him and Tevin Coleman both very inefficient, both stuffed over 26% of the time, but then you flip the coin, and then you've got Raheem Mostert, who has been the complete opposite. He was at the top of the league in being stuffed the fewest amount of times. You can argue all you want. He's got Gaskins, been very efficient in the same offense. So
yeah, but I don't also think I don't have Breida's stats, but I don't know how he hasn't really been that involved this year either. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what he can do.
He's not that involved because he's not the best running back on his team.
Well, he is right now. He is because he's going to be active. So that's what I'm saying.
He's been involved each game. He's gotten some attempts. So 3 weeks ago against San Francisco, he was given 9 attempts rushing. But basically, it's like 5, 7, 3, 3, 9, 6, 4. And he's not averaging, what is it, like low 3?
3.5 yards per carry right now.
Yeah, 3.5. So he's not being efficient with the opportunities. With a bigger workload and knowing the offense, he should be first in line for attempts. I don't know that means much because they went out and traded for a guy. Like, I don't know if they're not giving him anything because he's only getting this 3.5 yards per attempt. I will say, historically speaking, from the pass catcher side, he's catching over 80% of his pass, or right around 80% of the balls thrown his way in his career. That's not been a ton, probably getting, it looks like about 30-ish targets a season. But you got to hope that they figure out something to do with him because he's probably their lead back going into week 9 and won't stay that way if he can't be more efficient than 3.5 yards per touch.
Yeah, I was just saying that he hasn't ever been that involved in the passing game. Not that he was bad, just that he's never been that involved. As involved as people let out to believe, right? Like he's this, like Austin Eckler before he started getting carries too, or something. People.
Or maybe like a Tyler Irvin type guy.
Oh dear. That's it. Write an article.
What is this dude going on about? Just because you didn't know who an NFL player was that's been around forever, you don't have to get all bring it up an hour later.
I'll give an example of a pass catching back.
All right. Next name for Anthony. Do you know who Tremaine Pope is?
I do.
Okay,
and
just checking.
Yeah, and he beat out your boy Joshua Kelly, I think, too, didn't he?
Like 4. I will give him that.
Oh, this dude, yeah, Joshua Kelly, not very good. Let's just go ahead and say that right now.
That's fired.
But
You're not.
Just a note, AB officially active on the roster. I just want to know what you guys expect out of the gate. I think he's greatly benefited, unfortunately, by Chris Godwin's absence. So what's his name? It doesn't matter. What do you guys think, Jason?
Let's do this. Let's just make AB, because we've already had somebody ask about him in the chat. Let's make AB as a wide receiver 2. Are you buy, selling, or holding on that? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Brad.
I would sell on that one. I don't see it. I would have to pull up and see who's in the wide receiver 2 category, but I can't imagine him the rest of the season being that because Godwin will come back. You've got 2 tight ends that he can throw to. You've got Evans. I mean, there's just too many options. I mean, he's throwing the ball. Well, even watching the Monday night game, he's chucking the ball to his running backs a fair amount. I just don't know how he's going to get the volume to be a wide receiver too. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think he's a low end too. If anything, probably a 3 for me. I mean, the connection that Brady and AB have is pretty good. I mean, they practice a lot together, and they kind of know what each other's doing. That's a huge factor there. So, but like you said, Brad, I mean, Godwin is coming back. They got all these weapons. So, I mean, Tom's gonna be spreading the ball out. So, yeah. But then again, AB has this huge playmaking ability, and he can boom at any moment. So. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the volume that he's getting and how they're going to work him into that offense. What do you think, Rick?
Oh, the volume's going to be there. It's going to be there. He's
Yeah.
probably still the best wide receiver on this team, and I love Mike Evans and Chris and Godwin's good, but I mean, it's only been a year that he's been off the field, and this dude is as in shape as anybody in the NFL, and
Yeah.
he is not only a great wide receiver, he's one of the best wide receivers we've seen play, especially in the last 20 years. He may be, a top 4 receiver of the last 20 years. Antonio Brown is really, really good, and he's so good that despite everything that happened, Tom Brady says, hey, come and live with me. We want you in Tampa Bay. Bruce Arians didn't want him. Bruce Arians didn't want the headache. This is a Tom Brady move. Tom Brady loves Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown is going to get peppered with targets because Tom Brady knows he's good. He could be a wide receiver 1. I'm buying at wide receiver 2. Absolutely. Wouldn't be surprised if he ended up a wide receiver 1 the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think wide receiver 2 is probably a mean, an average of what he could be. But if I had to guess, is he more likely a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 3? I'm definitely leaning toward wide receiver 1. So I agree 100%. I was offered in a league with Sully. I don't know if Sully's watching tonight. I was offered from Sully a 2021 second for AB, and I said, no way. No way. So if you have him, for me, he's a hold.
Are you a contender in that league?
I am. And
Yeah,
I am. And,
okay. I was going to say, if you're rebuilding, you take the second. If you're
Sure.
contending, there's no way I'm taking. I just got him back. I had him on my roster for 2 years now, just sitting there. And I got him back on a team where I'm 6-2, and there's no way I would trade him for a second rounder.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going straight in my lineup this weekend. I have zero concerns. This dude's gonna ball out. He's got a lot to prove, and take a look at his Instagram. The dude's still as in shape as any other player that's on an NFL field right now. He's ready to go, and Tom Brady loves him. He's literally roommates with him right now, and Tom Brady has a wife and kids in the house, and we know what caused Antonio Brown to be out for the last 8 weeks. And for Tom Brady to feel that comfortable bringing him in there, he ain't bringing him in there and not tossing him the rock. I can tell you that much right now.
Yeah, I don't think AB's taking any days off training wise for sure. He loves football, so he's gonna be ready to play. That's for sure.
I will say it is crazy that he has been quiet. We haven't heard a lot of AB stuff in the last. Well, basically, isn't it weird? Like COVID happens and Antonio Brown shuts up, and he gets normal while the rest of the world falls apart. It's kind of what happened. It's kind of crazy. Like we said, we're in a parallel universe right now. Okay, so we do have some questions here in the chat. Keep dropping them in there, and basically what today's episode is, it's not a start sit thing, because for one, it's only Tuesday and there's a lot more information that's going to come out. We can try to answer those, but never take what we say on Tuesday as written in stone, right? Because if stuff happens by Sunday morning, which you can tune in Sunday morning at 10 a.m. with Bryce and I and ask those start sit questions when we have more information. But if there's players you're wondering about, drop their name in the chat and we'll talk, whether we're buy, selling, or holding them. This one's on you guys. As long as you guys ask some questions, we'll stick around for a little bit. So we do have another question from our boy Jaws. And he was wondering, since the trade deadline's gone and Michael Thomas is still a Saint, are they about to unwrap him? So we'll just go straight to wide receiver 1 from week 9 on. Are you buy, selling, or holding Michael Thomas. And then are you buying him right now since he hasn't played and people seem a little scared off, or are you gonna sell him, or are you just holding? Anthony, we'll let you go first this
Well,
time.
I I think people are scared off. I saw some people ranking wide receivers today, and you know, preseason everyone had Michael Thomas well and above the number one wide receiver in Dynasty. Now he's not. People are putting Adams above him, Tyreek Hill above him, DK above him. I think this is a great opportunity to buy Michael Thomas, and you know, the only thing I'd be concerned about is Kamara isn't getting a lot of he's getting a lot of PPR catches because he doesn't have Michael Thomas to throw the ball to right now. So if Kamara doesn't start scoring, I would expect Kamara's production to dip off a little bit. Kamara is a good sell right now, but definitely Michael Thomas is a buy for me. Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. If somebody's selling him, I would definitely buy him. The Saints started slow. Drew Brees wasn't looking great the first few weeks of the season, but he's getting up there now. He's averaging over 70% completions last 4 weeks. He's averaging just over 40 attempts the last 4 weeks. It seems like maybe getting into a little bit of a groove. Now he's not throwing for crazy numbers. I mean, he had one game over 300, but everything else has been right around the 280 mark the last few weeks. So there's definitely enough production there that I would buy Thomas as a wide receiver one, because teams are letting them move the ball through the air on them still fairly well. So Thomas is still the best receiver on that team, even with Kamara. I think Thomas gives you a great opportunity for just a ton of production as long as he's healthy. So I would buy him in a heartbeat. I'm definitely buying him as a wide receiver one the rest of the season. What about you, Mr. Jason?
Yeah, I agree. He's a buy for sure, and it's just been a pain having him sit on your bench the whole year basically, and not produce for you. It's just been a struggle for all the fantasy owners that have Michael Thomas. Yeah, I think he's a buy for sure. I mean, Brees loves to target him, and he's a big part of their offense. So why not? I mean, they got Kamara catching a lot of passes, but he's when Thomas comes back, he's gonna chip away at that, and it's gonna even out. So I expect him to produce big time. So what do you think there, Rick?
Well, if you're asking if I'm buying him, the answer is yes, because I just bought him last week. And I don't know if he's ever going to play again because I bought him last week. And I paid a pretty penny, but I paid DK Metcalf in a second for Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas still is my number one wide receiver. If he's on the field, he is still my number one wide receiver. And I'm not, just because he hasn't played, I'm not going to take him back. Now, if we find out, because there's rumors that there's issues there, but guess what? The guy that got punched by Javon Wims is the same guy that Michael Thomas decided to punch in practice. Seems like there's an issue with an individual that keeps getting punched, even by his own teammates. I mean, if we're being honest,
Solid point.
if his own teammates are punching him, seems like we know where the common denominator lies, right? Where the problem may be. But we can all speculate on the Saints and him having issues. Maybe he really did tweak his hamstring, and he was gonna be out for a couple weeks, right? After that whole incident and the suspension. We know how good he is. We know he catches every damn thing that comes to him. He's quarterback proof, and he's got a lot of years ahead of him being a great wide receiver. It is time. He needs to come back. They need him too, because Sanders went down. Traquan has he's flashed. He's had some good moments. This past week, you can't really hold against them. We've talked about this on stream. The Bears' defense is good against the pass, and they make it hard on receivers and whatnot. But yeah, they need him. They need him back now. And this is a team we obviously know they're making a run, right? They just brought in Quan Alexander, and they're making moves to try to get Brees that Super Bowl before he retires. I think he's back if he's healthy, and he will just ball out like he always has. I do agree with the Alvin Kamara stuff, though. If you have Alvin Kamara and you're not in contention for your league championship, right now is a great time to sell him because you can get a buttload. I think people have moved him into like running back one ahead of CMC because CMC was out. Not everybody, but some people have. So you can get a big price out of Kamara right now, and I would do it. He just doesn't get enough rushing to warrant that price tag for me, right? He's with Murray there, he is like, they're like a 50-50 committee rushing the ball. And then Kamara's value, his immense value, comes from how many targets he gets, which him and Thomas are going to be the 1-2 target punch guys, but he is going to lose a lot of them because he's been getting such a great amount when Thomas is healthy. So I do not disagree with that at all.
So
Yeah, I
do we
just
think,
traded him.
Oh, sorry. Do we think that the Saints would move Michael Thomas?
No.
No.
They would have tried to do it today if it was a real issue, and somebody would
Right.
have bought Michael Thomas because he might be the best or second best wide receiver. Maybe Hopkins and Julio right now are the two that you would consider on his level, right? Maybe DK if you're talking about a youngster coming in, but yeah, I don't think they're planning on moving him. He's just
Well, they're trying to
I
win a
think
Super Bowl.
the Saints have cap issues coming up the next few years here, and they still haven't signed Kamara too, so that kind of worries me about. They might have to shake some things up, and their quarterback situations might change. With Brees retiring here soon.
Yeah, but they got that Jameis Winston guy waiting in the
Yeah.
wings. That's
He
gonna.
likes to throw it up.
Yeah, well, we're laughing, but seriously, right? You look at what I mean. Everybody said that Bridgewater was terrible when he got signed by the Carolina Panthers. He's not going to be able to help this offense. He's just a game manager, all that stuff, right? Which isn't true. He has been
Yeah,
way
hog
more
off.
than a game manager this year. That team and that offense has been way better than anybody expected it to be, outside of a couple down games against decent defenses. Um, Jameis, while I don't expect him to be a great quarterback, he's going to be cheap. That he's going to know the system, and they're going to know him. He probably gets a crack at it if this is Breeze's last year, unless they've just seen like unless they absolutely hate what they've seen in practices. He'll probably get a shot at that job before anybody else, right? And we know
Yeah.
from a fantasy perspective that everybody
Oh,
around
beautiful.
him can thrive from a fantasy perspective.
I think
Well,
he'll be a better quarterback because of it. Sitting behind Breeze, and he's going to learn a ton. So
my only thing to that would be yes, he could be better, but is a 20 interception guy what we're looking for? And that would be eliminating 33% of his interceptions from 1 year ago. So, yeah, I mean, I do think he could get better. We've said this, right? I've had the argument with Paul a number of times about Jameis Winston. There's no question at all that the guy has all the talent in the world. The question is, what's up here? And I actually just watched a Pat McAfee show clip yesterday where somebody asked, like, what's the difference between guys that make it in the NFL and guys that don't? When like, the question was like the Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning debate, right? Because people now, especially young people, don't realize how close that was in that draft in '98 when Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf came out. Like, they were neck and neck. People didn't know who was going to go 1 and 2. And what McAfee said is the guys that are like that don't make it, it's all between the ears, and it's everybody that makes it to the NFL is an elite athlete, and then it just comes down to work ethic and what's between your ears. So if Winston can learn, that would help him because he does have the talent. He can throw the ball for sure. We know that 5,000 yards 1 year ago.
30 for 30 club.
30 for 30 club. And that's the sad thing, right? Like what would you rather have? Would you rather have the guy that throws 18 touchdowns and only 12 interceptions, or the guy that throws 30 touchdowns but 30 interceptions? And that's been the hot debate, right? Like last offseason, that was the hot debate because I said turnovers like they ruin your team. We saw a great Bucks defense get ruined last year because of them. But it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Somebody on Facebook said any hot takes on Deontay Johnson. So we'll ask the question: what are you doing with Deontay Johnson right now? Are you buying, you selling, or are you holding? And we'll go ahead and start with you, Brad.
I would probably hold just to see what happens. I wasn't the biggest Deontay Johnson fan, truth be told, but I think there's something there, so I would hold on to him and see what transpires. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I agree. I'd hold and see what happens with him. But yeah, I mean, there's not much value that you're going to get from him. So I mean, if he's on your roster already, then hold on and see if that value can shoot up. What do you think, Anthony?
I agree. And normally on these guys, I would go out and buy them. But in this instance, because of his injury concerns, I don't even think I'd pay the price. I don't think the person selling him would be asking for a fair value anyway. So I agree with the hold sentiment, Rick.
Yeah, I definitely think you have to hold for now because, like you said, he is too expensive to buy with all these concerns mounting up, right? But if you have him and you want to sell, if he gets a 3-game stretch where he comes in and gets the 10, 12, 15 targets that he's got when healthy, then you can sell him. And I think I would be very apt to sell him at that point because I'm not confident this guy's ever going to stay on the field. And you guys have heard me a million times. Like, I don't like using that thought process, but it's been weird with Deontay Johnson, and it's been a number of different things as well. And it just feels like one of them guys that'll never be able to stay on the field for a full year. But again, we've talked about Jerick McKinnon tonight. He's been healthy for 8 weeks, and that's never happened before. This was the first time he ever played for the 49ers, and he signed with them in 1998. Will Fuller has been healthy all year. I know Anthony's joked about that this year. So,
Yeah.
Not that he can't break that mold, but even though Will Fuller's been healthy, you're not seeing him get the price that you would expect for the production that he puts up, right? His price
Right.
tag's just not there because people are still concerned that, I'm going to trade for Will Fuller, I'm going to pay this price, and then he's going to pull a hammy. Now, if he would have got traded to Green Bay, people may have forgot about that, right? Because they always forget about, they just know what just happened, right? Well, he hasn't been hurt in Green Bay yet. Yeah, so I am holding. But the person that posted said, I don't know about his value beyond Ben, which we don't know who's going to be there for Ben after Ben. So, I can't really comment on that. I think Deontay's the kind of receiver that when he's on the field, he is kind of QB proof, right? Because he can run all the routes and the short routes and stuff that can help bail a quarterback out. So I definitely think that he's got the talent to transcend a quarterback change. And unless the quarterback is just horrific, I mean, he had success last year with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, right? And they were terrible. So I think he can do that past Roethlisberger, no problem. Okay, let's see what we got here. We have some start sit questions, so we'll get those out of the way real quick. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to flex Bell, Singletary, Traquan Smith, or Denzel Mims. So just real quick, just give the player that you would, right now, you would flex. Anthony.
I think Le'Veon Bell.
Brad.
Yeah, I'd probably go Bell too. Jason?
Yeah, I'd go Bell or Mims. One of those guys.
Rich?
I haven't looked at all the matchups yet, but isn't it weird that Kansas City has had 2 huge leads in a row and they've barely ran the ball 2 weeks in a row, and they've literally, like, it's almost like a perfect split.
They're facing the Jets this week.
No, they just faced the Jets.
Oh, that was last week, wasn't it?
And they ran the ball, 15 times?
Yeah, not
Yeah,
much.
but that, I think that's because,
and
the
all
Jets,
their backs got carries. Sorry, Anthony.
the Jets have a better run defense, and I mean,
Dude,
I think Reed and
they
them
were
figured.
up 80 points though.
I know, but it's so easy to throw against them, and you have Mahomes and all these wide receivers. It's like, screw it, man, just keep throwing the ball. I mean, I think that's what it was, though.
Yeah, but I mean, but this is 2 weeks in a row, because if we look back to week 7 when they played Denver, they won 43-16, and he got 6 carries and CEH had 8, right, or 9, around 15. Like, it's real odd for me how little they're running the ball when literally in the last 2 games they've outscored their opponents 78-25.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's just so easy for them to just dink and dunk, get first downs, control the ball. Most teams control time of possession running the ball.
Okay.
And Mahomes is so good, they can just toss passes.
Okay, so that's the concern, though, right? If they're not running the ball and the running backs aren't getting action, I'm not comfortable. Do what?
But Bell is the one going to be benefiting from catching the passes. He has that PPR value.
Okay, so we've had 2 games in a row, and I don't think either of them have scored more than 10 fantasy points, right? Like, they're not getting, they haven't gotten in the end zone. They haven't got a lot of action in the passing game. I think they both had like 6 and 7 points this week. So that there hasn't even been that we've always had that Kansas City running back that puts up top 12 numbers, and CEH was kind of inconsistent. And then Bell comes over, and now I just think it's wrecked both of them. I don't think they're getting enough work. Now they're gonna have weeks, right, where one of these guys, either one of them, gets 2 touchdowns. Just because this week, Mecole Hardman had a big week, and Robinson had a big week. Well, they all had a big week. They scored 38 points and whatever. But I mean, that's how their offense kind of works. So they can have them boom weeks. I'm just not comfortable putting him in there. I would just have to look. Mims is getting so much volume as a receiver for the Jets, and if their matchup is better than the Chiefs defense is really good. That's another thing people don't realize.
Yeah, Jets have New England this week though, and Gilmore could be back. I'm not feeling that.
I'll take 6 to 8 targets for Mims over 6 to 8 carries for Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and CEH is still a top 10 back when you look at fantasy production, at least. I think he's like at 9 or 10, depending on your scoring. For
all season, but
yeah, for all season, so. No, you got to think that Bell really starts now that he's really getting more comfortable in the offense. And week 3, you got to think that he gets something there.
All right, start 2 in week 9. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Sterling Shepard, Corey Davis, or Chase Claypool. Thanks, guys. So this is an if-then statement for me. Corey Davis, I think, belongs in your starting lineup. Can we all agree on that? Corey Davis is playing closer to the Corey Davis we had hoped to see when he was drafted. Been playing great. So I think, for me, Corey Davis has to be in your lineup right now. The quarterback situation in Dallas has wrecked Cooper and Lamb. Oh, whoever thought we'd miss Dak so much, right? He should buy, when he gets his contract next year, he should buy Dalton and DiNucci a mansion each. Because them not playing well has definitely helped his case for a bigger contract from Dallas. But I think I start Chase Claypool with Corey Davis if Deontay Johnson is out. Anthony.
I agree.
I would start Claypool even if Deontay Johnson plays. Personally, they go up against Dallas. Even though Dallas had a good defensive showing last week, I think they're still very exploitable. I don't want Cooper or CeeDee Lamb versus Pittsburgh. That does not sound fun, especially with a fourth string quarterback. No thanks. So I agree. CD and Claypool.
I mean, you're not excited about Cooper Rush starting against Pittsburgh this week?
No.
I hate it, right? Because my argument at the beginning of the year was you never sit Cooper. You don't sit Cooper because he's Amari Cooper. You can sit Amari Cooper because Cooper Rush is starting against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. Brad, any disagree there?
Yeah, I think that Pittsburgh could get up quickly and start running the ball more. So I'd be afraid a little bit of Claypool. where the Giants are facing Washington this week, I would consider starting Sterling Shepard with Corey Davis. But I Claypool's a better talent, I think, and I think has a better opportunity. But I just worry like Dallas is just so inept right now on the offensive side that Pittsburgh's a team that wants to run the ball. So if they get up, I could see them giving the ball a ton of the running backs. That's my concern there.
This is
right now. Corey Davis and Claypool or Shepard, I'm okay either way.
This is something that we talk about in DFS all the time, right? When you look at these huge team totals, and people are like, "Oh, but the offense isn't going to play the fourth quarter," and they've got to score the points to get there. And how do they get there? And Chase Claypool is a guy that can get it on one reception and make your day. So I understand the thought process, but you got to get to the points to get enough to not play the guys late in the game. Or to just run the ball all the time. I would go. It would go Davis, Claypool, Cooper. With Cooper being real close to Claypool, because even with that quarterback, Amari Cooper still is an elite talent and can run those shorter routes that get him 12 targets. Right, 12 targets from a bad quarterback. We've seen it with DeAndre Hopkins early in his career, right?
Or 5 targets.
Yeah,
5 targets last week.
Okay, but that's DiNucci. We get Rush. He can get 12 targets from Rush. We've seen it many times over with all the quarterbacks that went through Houston with DeAndre Hopkins, right? That's the type of talent Cooper is, and that was 1 week. He commands targets. They're going to get him involved in that offense if they can, but it does depend on if Deontay Johnson's out. I think it's Claypool hands down. If Deontay Johnson plays, I'm playing Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is still going to be starting most of my lineups. You've just got Claypool and Davis here that I think belong in there in these situations. Most people don't have this. Amari Cooper is going to be in my lineups. I don't have this much depth.
No, I mean I would start Shepard over Cooper. Jason, what do you think?
Smoke that crack pipe.
Yeah, I like Claypool because of the boom, and he's still getting worked in the offense. And Deontay Johnson just hasn't been healthy, and when he is, I mean, he is seeing the targets and whatnot. But I just like the boom factor for Claypool, who's going to put you over the hump, and he, like I said, they're working him in. They're even giving him jet sweeps and whatnot. So I mean, this kid's the real deal in my opinion. And then I'd probably go with Davis as well. He's showing a lot of flashes, and Tannehill's playing great, so that's what I'd go with.
Sterling Shepard's actually last for me. I'll play CeeDee Lamb ahead of Shepard because we're talking about defense.
You don't like 10 targets?
Okay.
I mean, Daniel Jones likes the targets, Sterling Shepard.
Okay, but Daniel Jones also struggles big time with pressure. And what does Washington do?
It's going to be ugly.
What does Washington do?
I mean,
what
Tampa
does Washington
Bay
do
does
almost
a good
better
Tampa
than
Bay.
Yeah, it's going to be
Tampa Bay does a good job getting pressure too, though, and he still got Sterling Shepard 10 targets, and Sterling Shepard still turned in 8 of those.
Sterling Shepard's not Amari Cooper, though. If you get 10 out of Cooper and 10 out of Shepard, who you starting?
I'll be interested to see if Cooper gets 10 targets. I mean, Cooper Rush is not much better than DiNucci.
How do you know?
I really, against Pittsburgh's defense, that's not only good, but they've added Avery Williamson. I don't know if he's going to obviously play this week, but Pittsburgh's a really good defense. But this matchup worries me.
Pittsburgh struggles where Amari Cooper does well, though. They struggle in the passing game. They've been hurt by the passing game. They were interested in Gilmore and Xavier Howard, right? They were rumored to be going after both of them because that is where their defense is weak. Their defense does put pressure on the quarterback, and they do stop the run, but they can be beat through the air. But, again, Cooper Rush is the big question mark here and what he does. I'm saying that I'll start. There's no way in hell I would ever start Sterling Shepard over Amari Cooper. No way. No way. You'd have to pay me a lot of money to do that. Anyways, next question. Kind of conflicting question, but should I trade DK for Kelsey? I have MTAB Fuller and Deontay Johnson, full PPR redraft. I'm 4-4, so this is a redraft question. And he wants to know if he should trade DK for Kelsey. My answer is no. I would try to. Oh no, I see. I'm in dynasty mode. Um, I would need more than Kelsey for DK, but I would be willing to do the deal in redraft if I could get some more on top of Kelsey. I have to improve at more than just tight end for me to make the deal. You might.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. You know, MT may not even play. AB, we think he'll be involved, but we're not really 100% sure. Fuller could get hurt any day. So could Deontay Johnson. I think.
So could
I think.
Travis Kelsey.
I think you want to keep DK. He's a. If you were to redraft right now, he would be a first round pick.
So
I
could
think,
Anthony
pretty easily.
Leone.
Uh,
If Anthony chimes into the team chat tomorrow and it's like, I got hit by a car and broke my leg, I'm gonna feel so bad.
Oh, really?
Do you want
No.
me to
So
say
no, I
wouldn't
would.
feel bad.
Man.
I would not do this trade. I think if you are hurting for a tight end, you could get another one for a cheaper price, and you want to keep DK on your team.
Brad.
That's what.
Yep, I'd look elsewhere. I wouldn't want to trade DK. He's too good. Jason?
I like Kelsey a lot. I mean, DK's been playing really well, and he's been flashing, and he's one of the best receivers in the game right now. But I think it's just been too hit or miss kind of with the games having big games with Lockett, and then it goes back to DK, and then I like the targets that Travis Kelsey gets and the touchdowns, and to have that at your tight end spot, I mean that's huge.
I think
So I think I might make that move.
DK's only had one bad week though, right?
Right.
Only one. He's been
Yeah,
good
no, he's produced
every other
for sure.
week except for that one,
No.
and he had a touchdown called back where he just freaking manhandled everybody and ran one in, and then David Moore got a penalty on the play and brought it back, and he had a 90-yard tackle. If we're gonna, let's just add that into that down game. That 90-yard Buda Baker tackle was awesome.
I think Kelsey will help you win the championship though.
No,
in the playoffs.
DK.
Yeah.
No.
If you have
Come
depth
on.
at wide
Quit
receiver, I think
interrupting
it's worth
him,
it.
Anthony. Or we're not gonna let you
I
talk
really
next
do.
time you talk. Okay, Jason.
Where's that
finish
mute
what you were
button?
saying.
It just makes
Yeah,
me
no,
mad.
I think Kelsey can help you win the playoffs, and that DK is, he's great and all, and he produces, but I just think that like, having that production at the tight end spot, and if you have depth at wide receiver that you can fill in, then it's probably worth it.
It depends.
But if you're hurting at wide receiver, yeah, it's team dependent.
It does depend, because here's a little math for you. And I don't know if California does that weird math where they like put draw the box and then do all the weird stuff, But if going from DK Metcalf down to AB is only like a 3-point difference, but going from freaking Trey Burton to Travis Kelsey is a 12-point difference, your team's better. Okay, so that's how that works, right? And especially redraft. That's how it works. If it depends on what you're replacing with each piece for it to make sense. You still need more on top of Kelsey, I think, to trade DK. And if you can keep DK and improve tight end, that is ideal. But to get a top-end tight end, and Kelsey is so far above everybody else in the NFL right now with Kittle injured for the rest of the year that he gives you a positional advantage in every game. And he is probably at least a 5-point expected per game over whoever you're starting right now, right? Like, nobody's even close to him in the NFL this year because all the other good Ertz was one not producing before and is now injured. Kittle's out. Andrews isn't doing what he did last year. Has some boom games here and there. Who else is in the conversation even close to Kelsey? So the position you're probably gaining more points getting Kelsey in your lineup than going from DK to one of those receivers that he listed. It's not fun, but it's redraft here. We're only looking for another 9 weeks. You can shake your head all you want. It's the truth. That's how math works.
You just can't. If we're redrafting today,
that doesn't matter.
Of course it matters. There's no chance in hell you would take Kelsey over DK. Last week, DK had 161 yards, 12 receptions. He had a bad week the week before when Lockett went off, but beyond that, every game he's had over 90 yards receiving.
That's not
That's
not the point that's being made here, because you have your whole roster. You know what your roster is. At that point in a draft, you don't know what your whole roster is, and you don't know how they're going to produce.
But his wide receivers aren't. You can't. MT is hurt. AB, we don't know what we have with AB yet. Fuller and Deontay are extremely inconsistent. So
Fuller is not inconsistent. You're throwing out DK's numbers. Go look at Fuller's numbers this year, because he has not been inconsistent at all.
The biggest factor in this trade, though, is Kelsey has a bye week 10. So, I mean, you're losing that week for production there.
Yeah,
So
and that's something that I don't have bye weeks in front of me and all that.
I don't have that.
But they're
no, I don't have that.
And like I said, you do need more than Kelsey to trade DK. But the whole idea is to get more points in your lineup. And I think his receivers are fine when they're on the field. The only one that hasn't been on the field, well, AB hasn't been on the field, but he's healthy right now, and he's coming back this week.
MT hasn't been on the field. Deontay Johnson hasn't been on the field. I mean, his you guys are acting like he has these great wide receivers. He doesn't. I think it's very. I 100% disagree. No.
Okay. Cool. Cool. We're moving on.
All right.
And just to add some clarity to it, Darren Waller is the number 2 tight end in fantasy right now, and he's like 40 or 50 points behind Kelsey.
Right. So on a per game average, that's like 5-6, like I said, right?
Yeah. It's probably about 4 or 5.
Well, we can look that up real quick, because Fantasy Pros has their.
I'm about to say I wasn't looking specifically into that.
PPR leaders 2020. Let's go with PPR tight end. 4 points.
I know, that's what I said.
Yeah, I know. I was confirming.
No, I know. I mean, so it really does confirm that Kelsey is.
And that's if you have Waller, but I'm sure this guy doesn't have Waller, because he wouldn't be looking for that. If he's got Trey Burton, we're talking about a 7-point addition to his lineup on a weekly basis.
And quite honestly, I would consider saying, hey, why don't you go talk to a guy who's got, Waller or one of these lesser tight ends that aren't far off, and keep DK. If you can
do that, like I said, that is the best thing to do. But if you don't get that consistency with anybody else, even Waller has been inconsistent, even though he's averaging 14 points. And for some reason, and this boggles my mind, as good as he is, has had a hard time getting in the end zone the last year and a half there with the Raiders. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and got offered Zach Moss and DJ Shark for Terry McLaurin. Any thoughts?
Don't do it.
Okay, Jason.
Yeah, I would pass.
I'm passing too. I like Terry McLaurin's a monster. He's gonna, and once they get that quarterback in there, he's going to be a monster. And he's shaking his head, so I'm interested to hear this one.
We know he loves Zach Moss.
I think it's a fair trade. I agree that I prefer McLaren, although if you desperately need a running back, I think Moss is a decent buy right now. And if you're making that push for the championship and you need a running back, I could see myself doing this trade. That's what I'll say.
Oh, so Preet has Noah Fant as another tight end, which would have been good information to have while we're arguing something. Keep DK Metcalf.
Yeah,
that would have completely negated the whole argument.
Come on.
What?
You guys, I'm done with you guys.
Okay,
in that entire 10-minute conversation, no one mentioned Noah Fant. All of a sudden, you mentioned Noah Fant, and now it's, oh yeah, no, don't do the trade. Come on, guys. So, no, keep DK over Kelsey.
Hang up the call.
No doubt about it.
Hang up
if
the
you
call.
could flex Kelsey,
that's
even a better factor, I think. But
I think we need to take a step back and make sure Mr. Leone's all right. Have you had some veg chips today? Have you made sure you got your greens? Are you feeling all right? Do you need
He's muted. I don't know how to gray it out. I would do the whole ESPN thing and gray him out right now, but he's just muted.
That's so good.
Okay. Hey, man, I'm 3-4, about to go 4-4. I'm struggling in fantasy. I have Julio, A.J. Brown, Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs, C.H. Godwin, and Antonio Brown. I like my players, but it's not good having 2 sell high running backs. I'm not sure.
I don't know what he means.
How'd you get unmuted?
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft. I should have hit remove from call when he said I'm done with you guys.
Oh man.
Rate this trade full PPR. I gave away Mark Andrews and got McLaurin. I have Fant on the bench to fill up the spot. It's a great trade. McLaurin
Love it.
is great. We're all on the same page there?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Is CH for Terry McLaurin a good trade? I have Derrick Henry. Okay, so McLaurin here it seems like he is a hot topic right now. So why don't we just go ahead and buy, sell, hold McLaurin? And I'm just going to say this guy's getting a huge opportunity, right? But the quarterback play has been iffy, especially with Haskins in there. He's had some more success with Kyle Allen. McLaurin might be working his way into my top 12 wide receivers. I like him that much. I think he's got the talent. We need that offense to improve some and get a little bit more touchdown upside. And McLaurin could go off and be a wide receiver 1. I'm buying him, and I would take. I don't think you can take CEH over, or I don't think you can take McLaurin over CEH in Dynasty, because you paid so much for CEH. The asking price was so high, and it's dropping fast. But I think you're giving away too much value if you make that swap now, unless you really think that CH is going to continue dropping. So for that specific trade, I would keep CEH. If it's redraft, I don't mind the trade as much. Brad, what are your thoughts?
Well, and are you talking about the comment from Brad over on YouTube?
Yes.
CH so he says he has Derrick Henry, James Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Rojo, and Bernard. So I mean, I would want to have Terry McLaurin with that roster, because you've got perfectly fine starting running backs and a little bit of depth there. No matter how you feel about Rojo and Antonio Gibson, they're both fine flex pieces if you need them in a pinch.
In redraft, you're thinking redraft though, right? Just to clarify.
I think in a redraft this year, if that's where we're going with this, in a dynasty format, I mean, McLaurin's going to give you better longevity at the position. So having Henry and Robinson and Gibson and Rojo, I mean, CH, I would probably want to have a better wide receiver long term than having CEH long term, because there's plenty of other running backs that I like that are probably less expensive.
Jason.
What do you think, Jason? Oh, sorry.
I think Terry McLaurin's a huge buy right now, and he's got some great matchups coming up versus their defenses, and I think he's just going to keep booming off and having a huge year. So I see a lot of production coming out of McLaurin there.
Anthony.
Yeah, redraft, I think it's a slam dunk trade. And Dynasty, I agree with everything Rick said. I think CEH has more value than Terry McLaurin. So for that straight up trade, I wouldn't want to do that. I think I would try to get a different wide receiver for CEH that I think would be ranked higher. So yeah, I agree with Rick on that.
Yeah, I just think you're burning way too much value. You literally just gave up a first-round startup pick for CEH 8 games ago. And if you're giving up on that value after 8 games, you're not doing it right in Dynasty.
Right.
And like I said, I love Terry McLaurin, but you've got to give CH time. They're right in the middle of a win back-to-back championship run. That's why they brought Le'Veon Bell in. I'm just, even though I wasn't paying that price for CEH, I had a feeling something like this was going to happen. No matter who the player is that you draft that high, after 8 games, you can't sell that low. McLaurin's value is probably a 3rd round startup value right now, 4th round, because he hasn't had the big weeks. Everybody knows he's talented, but the production hasn't matched the talent because of the quarterback play. You're burning way too much value there in Dynasty if you do that straight up. So yeah, I will do that in redraft for sure. But I'm not doing that in Dynasty. There's no way. And we don't know if any of those other running backs that he has are going to be like valuable running backs past this year, right? We don't know what Jags are going to do. I think James Robinson's going to have a role going further, but this was also a guy that came out of nowhere. We don't know how the rest of the season's going to go. So I'm not 100% confident in him being a long-term NFL starter. Antonio Gibson, we don't know. Ronald Jones fumbled again the other day and didn't get a touch for an entire quarter and a half or whatever it was. And then Bernard's obviously not even the lead back on his team. So Derrick Henry's the only guy we know is going to get carries next year. So that also hurts for Dynasty. We know CEH is going to be involved in some stretch going forward. Hasty versus Green Bay or Moss versus Seattle. This is easy. It's Hasty versus Green Bay because we play any running back. Well, if Carson's out, if Hyde's out, then it's Hasty easily because we play any starting running back versus Green Bay rest of the year. You just do that because Green Bay's defense is not good against the run. They're worse than the NFL. They give up the most fantasy points to running backs. So that one's easy. But if Hasty might not even be relevant, right? Because we could get Hyde and Carson. They were both game time decisions this week. Unless something came out that I missed, they both could end up being active this week, and then Hasty's.
No, you're confusing the Seahawks with the Niners. Hasty.
I was.
It's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Hasty. You're starting Hasty. Disregard all the
I like
dumb
Hasty
stuff
there.
I said,
Yeah.
and just start Hasty.
We've been doing that the whole show, Rick. Don't worry.
I really should just end call on this. It's not my fault you don't understand math and you don't know NFL players. I can't help you there. You get
California
NFL reference, right? Is stat reference, whatever it is. You can Google it.
Pro Football Reference, baby.
Yeah, Pro Football
Look it up.
Reference. There's players everywhere. You can learn about all of them.
You can Google it.
Who do I start at flex? Ayuk or Antonio Gibson? I think the answer is Ayuk. 49ers. What do you think there?
Ayuk.
I'm tempted. I'm tempted to start Gibson, just because I like the matchup versus the Giants. But I don't know. I kind of want to see who's the starting quarterback first. If it is going to be Mullins, he really didn't play well last game, but I guess pure volume, he's the right play. So, all right, I'll agree with the consensus and stick with IU.
I don't care if you agree with us. I was just hoping you'd get to it.
5 hours later.
Anthony, I love you, bro. Blue Crew is the last question. Then we're getting out of here. Trade feedback, please. PPR, should I trade away Montgomery for Zeke? My only other running backs are Kamara and Melvin Gordon. The answer is yes. Man, this question does get hard, right? Because if this is redraft, then that would be the big question. We're obviously a Dynasty show. We've got a lot of redraft questions. But that offense is in shambles. But the Bears is too. So Zeke is obviously the better talent, but it makes it tougher.
Redraft. Montgomery's going to produce better this year because
I think he might too. The Bears just came off a stretch of 4 tough defenses, playing against 4 tough defenses. Montgomery's going to be better, more efficient than he was in those games, but he's not going to be great. Billy Foster had a question. Okay, we got one more question. I did miss one. Redraft, I go Montgomery, I think, and then Dynasty, I'm still keeping Zeke.
Yeah, that has to be a redraft question. I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. But yeah, I'd trade for Zeke. I like his, obviously the situation's not the best, but he's one of the more talented backs in the league. So I think that's the way to go.
And once Dalton's back, I think you'll see a better version of Zeke too. So I think Zeke is kind of a good buy low right now.
For redraft or for
Dynasty? For redraft. Yeah. And for Dynasty.
Yeah, Dynasty's a buy for sure.
Yeah. The thing with Zeke, he doesn't have big playability, and with that offensive line not being what it was, and with the offense being in full pass mode all the time, he does get some work in the passing game, but he's not getting those 25 carries that he always got and that he needed for the rushing totals. Because he's like a
Right.
5 yard per carry guy. Like he just consistently 5 after 5 after 5. So that's the tough part with Zeke. He's definitely the best talent out of the two. But okay, so Billy's question was: I traded Miles Sanders and DJ Moore and Hawkinson for Julio, Davis, and Jared Cook. I got Davis because I have CMC.
Oh, Mike Davis.
I think you made a bad trade here, Billy. Miles Sanders is more valuable to your team than Mike Davis is. So much more that the difference between going down from Julio to DJ Moore um, is is not going to make up the difference. Um, and then Hawkinson, I would much rather have over Jared Cook. Um, I think this is one that you're gonna wish you had back when it comes to the end of the year. Julio is definitely an upgrade over DJ Moore, but Davis is a huge downgrade from Miles Sanders. Obviously, we need to see Sanders on the field though. Thoughts, Anthony?
I agree 100%. Brad.
Yeah, in redraft, I definitely CMC should be back, and that really you'll probably not notice this nearly as much because Miles Sanders has been so hurt. But I would still agree with you guys.
Yeah, I
Jason?
agree 100% for sure. I'd rather have the Miles Sanders side. It's probably a compulsive, sell and trade that you made. But yeah, like you said, Rick, at the end of the season, I think you're going to want, Sanders, DJ Moore, and Hawkinson because Hawkinson's starting to turn it on, especially right now.
Okay, I have one more thing that I wanted to cover because I want to know what your guys' thoughts on this. It's a little close to home for me. But Dylan he asked a question. Brad answered it in the chat. But he said, should I trade Ayuk for Jared Cook because I had Kittle, lost him for the next 8 weeks? Brad answered, if you're deep at wide receiver. And he said, I have Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd, and Devin Mooney. Devin Mooney is a guy that I'm kind of perplexed by, right? Because he was drafted by my favorite team. None of us were high. I think he just got added to the rookie rankings recently. Um, what do you guys? What are your thoughts, and what are you doing with Devin Mooney in Dynasty? Are you buying him? You selling him, or are you holding him and seeing what happens? Jason, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think this kid's a buy. He came into the league and no one really was high on him, like you said. No one really knew about him, and now he's starting to make waves, and that's a good sign for a young kid that has had to work his way up and try to beat out, Anthony Miller. And yeah, I think the future is very bright for this kid, and I'm expecting him to, become something for them because they really need it right now. So what do you think, Anthony?
I don't know who Devin. I don't know who Devin Mooney is. I know who Darnell Mooney is, and Darnell Mooney
Why
is
you gotta be a
definitely
dick to
someone.
our viewers, dude?
I know. I was being a dick to you
I
because you were
just
saying
read
it
what
wrong,
he wrote.
and he's on your team.
I just read what he wrote. You don't have to be a dick to our viewers. You are getting freaking gray boxed. Brad, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, as an Anthony Miller truther, it pains me because I really think Anthony Miller is so much better of a talent, but I think you have to buy him because they just keep targeting him. I mean, if nothing else, stash him and see what happens. I don't know that at this point, unless you desperately need to flex, I don't know that you can trust him on a weekly basis, but I think you just have to roster him and see what happens.
Um, I think you can trust him. And the reason why is because, we just talked about the defenses. Just look back at the last four defenses that the Bears have faced, and they're tough. And this kid's getting 6 to 8 targets every week. Everybody knows my love for Anthony Miller, but we were talking earlier about the guys that make it and the guys that don't. And I think Miller has that same issue that we were talking about, and it's between the ears. He has to figure that out. We saw him have that stretch last year where he dominated. But when his head's not there, they don't use him. He looked better this week, so hopefully we see that second half resurgence. But Darnell Mooney's getting the volume, and we know Nagy's going to always throw no matter what. So if they can get even a little bit better with the schedule being a little less, against tough defenses. Because they played the Rams, the Saints, the Bucks. Those are 3 of the last 4 games, and I know I'm missing one in there. But yeah, I definitely think he is a flex play right now. But I'm probably not buying because I think people are going to make you pay, and I think I would rather wait until he has a couple down weeks and then try to buy again, rather than come off that 17-point fantasy week that we just saw this week.
Yeah.
Agree.
Um, Okay. All right, we're going to call that a night. We've been on here for an hour and a half. Sorry if we didn't get to any of your questions, just so everybody knows. Um, there is another stream tomorrow night, and it is redraft centric, with Brad, Sully, and Bryce. So you can come back, start sit questions, save those for Sunday morning. Why are you yawning, Paul? You can come back on Sunday morning at 10 and ask those start sit questions when we have all the information in, who's out, weather. Weather was a big factor last week, right? And we'll be able to answer those questions. Plus, they'll give you some insight tomorrow night. And any last words, Brad? No. Okay.
No.
Anthony.
Yeah,
Just
I
kidding.
had
Just kidding.
I had one of no, really. I had one of our viewers said he couldn't get his question on the stream. He DM'd me. Totally cool. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to DM. I can also, if you want, get other people's opinions in our team in our group chat. So just feel free to hit us up anytime.
Absolutely.
Discord, Facebook, Twitter.
Yes, Discord. Get in the Discord for sure.
Yeah, hop in the Discord. That's the place to be. And on our Facebook, of course.
Absolutely. It's been a long night, long day.